This video will be talking about wooden doors and windows produced specifically in Egypt. Here's an outline of the things we're going to be talking about, and we're going to start off with the historical background of wood in general. The tree and wood have played a prominent role in the history of human beings, has been the most important building material since Paleolithic times. It was used not only for building but also the manufacture of tools and furniture. Later evolved from a simple natural material to a modern industrial and engineering material. Egypt was one of the first countries to discover the use of wood from trees. It was discovered and began to be used during the 1700s by ancient Egyptians who started crafting with different kinds of wood and building life-size statues. It then became very popular during the 5th dynasty. From the 10th to the 18th century in Europe, wood was used for building tools, machines, mills, carts, buckets, shoes, furniture, and barrels. Wood played a key role for the transportation of people. The 19th century railroads used wood for fuel and was the primary energy supply during that time. Its construction material, style, and durability of wood depended on the quality of timber available at that time. Construction of wood began with using logs by placing them horizontally like a log cabin. As construction with concrete and stone became common, wood was then used for concrete forms and structural components like trusses. The industry of manufacturing wood began growing very frequently after World War I and grew even more rapidly after World War II due to the increase in demand. Now we're going to be talking about the types of wood used locally. Types are Aziz, oak, pine, teak, and beechwood. Some of them are more ideal for indoor use while others for outdoor. We'll be comparing each and we'll start with pinewood. Pinewood is known in Egypt as moski. It's the cheapest type and is primarily used for windows frames and subframes. It's soft, light, has high workability. However, due to the fact that it is not imported dry and is not dried in Egypt, but rather used as is, the moisture in it makes it undurable. As seen in the picture, it is light in color and has many knots. Beechwood, known as zen, is more expensive and is used for doors. It's considered the hardest in Egypt and is durable when imported dry. It has a reddish color and is very tight with compact fibers. Gives a high quality finishing and is also light in weight. Oak, known as aro, is the most expensive common type of wood. It's primarily used for doors. It's hard, always imported dry, and therefore is durable. It has a reddish brown color due to the treatments with chemicals and is soft, tight, and very luxurious. Those three types are the ones that are most commonly used in Egypt. Now where do we get them from? In Egypt, all wood is imported. Pinewood is imported from Europe, beech also from Europe, but mostly from Romania, and oak is from the US and Yugoslavia. The last two types include Azizi and teak. Azizi is used outdoors for windows and doors. It's hard and resists humidity and rain very well. Teak is more expensive and is also used outdoors due to its high durability and resistance to weather. However, both are not very widely used locally. Now we're going to be talking about some of the manufactured wood indoors. MDF is a medium density fiber and HDF is a high density fiber. They're cartons that are compressed and treated as to be in the form of strong boards. They're problematic when exposed to liquids as they wear out easily. PDF is made up of compressed wood fines under high temperature and pressure, and they're treated chemically and glued. Hardboard is compressed wood and it makes up ألواح الكونتر. It's known as خشب مضغوط. Wood veneer is a thin wood that's called قشرة خشبية. Now we're going to talk about the various factors that contribute to the criteria of choosing wood. Those factors are the wood type, the cost, the moisture content, the amount of knots, the tree age, the country of origin, and the wood grain. As for the factors that affect the costs, They are the wood type, the manufacturing type, and the painting type. Here are the common price ranges per meter squared, the three most commonly found types of wood in Egypt. The types are put in the pyramid in ascending order of increase in price. An important factor that contributes to the price is the aesthetics of knots. One of the characterizations of knots is what they call in Egypt common 1, common 2, and fez. In common 2, the knots appear on two sides. In common 1, it appears only on one side, and fez is considered to be the best because it has no knots at all. Another classification is عقد طيبة and عقد خبيثة. عقد طيبة is light in color, and عقد خبيثة is dark as if it's burnt and has a void around it, which makes it very unappealing. Wood grain is the direction in which wood cell fibers grow, and it differs from one tree to another. The grain with varying characteristics can add beauty, while straight-grained wood adds strength. Of course, the more beautiful the wood is in terms of wood grain and the amount of knots, the more expensive the door or window gets. Now we'll move on to the components of doors. There are two major components, a counter and a frame. It's made this way to make the door or window lighter in weight. The main structure of the door is found in the frame, therefore it's made of high quality wood. The door frames consist of 3 sides, and the floor being the 4th, while the window frame consists of 4 sides. There are 2 types of doors, the hashw and the kaps. The first one is the fill door or hash, which is made of contour wooden bars. It's covered by any wooden cover for a good physical appearance. The second type is pressured door or kaps. It's made up of wooden bars with a space of 5 mm between each wooden bar, then it's covered with a thin layer of MDF. The filled door is actually better than the pressured one in terms of strength, since the pressured door has a lot of empty space in between the bars, which makes it very weak. A more detailed comparison can be seen in this table. Now we're going to mention the dimensions of doors depending on the location of the door throughout the house. In the wet areas, they range from 0.75 to 0.9 meters. In the rooms, from 0.85 to 1 meter, and in the entrances, they start from 1 meter upwards. As for the frames, they're usually 2 by 4 inches with a thickness of 2 inches. Now, how are the doors and windows installed? In Egypt, they use a technique called knot lisan. A knot is a hole in one of the frames, and a lisan is a protruded part in another one. Then they're both interlocked, forming an attachment between the 2 frames, and sometimes glue is used to assist this. Wooden pieces called khabur are also used as they act as nails. Those elements are shown here in the pictures. As for the process of attaching the frames of the door to the wall, there are 2 ways to do that, using foam or kanet. In the first method, foam is sprayed in the space between the door frame and the wall. It then solidifies and expands, filling the space in between. One should be careful to leave a distance of not less than 8 meters between the wooden frame and the wall to allow expansions to occur. The second method is the process of using kanet. A kana is shown in this picture. We have an opening on the right side which is attached by nails, and the left side is attached by mortar. Then we have the attachment of the door or window to its frame, and a hinge is used for that connection. The number of hinges depend on the height. Doors usually require 3 hinges, and the windows require 2 to 3 depending on the height. Now we move on to accessories. Wooden doors accessories are made out of metal, copper, chrome, or metal covered with nickel. Mufassalat are used to fix the door frame vertically, and there are different types of it, adaya, sikina, and marwaha. We also have 2 different types of handles, الكوالين والمقابض, which are fixed vertically with the frame and are used for the opening and closing of doors and windows. There is also something called shanakel, which is used in windows to connect the 2 bars of the window. Now we'll talk about equipments and tools used. Those are some important machines that we found in one of the workshops we visited, and here's a video explaining each equipment. First, choose the type of wood we want, depending on a lot of factors, including the aesthetics, the amount of knots. Then use moisture meter to measure the amount of moisture inside of it. See how dry it is? Then we cut into the dimensions we want using a munshar. Then there's this machine called Rabou, which is used to make the edges straight. Here's the machine working. And then we move on to another machine called Taghreed. She's used to make sure the thickness is even on all sides. The machine next to it is called the Nassar. It's used for Nassar. And this is the Alia, just to create this design. And it works by putting a roba in which we put a kastir that rotates and creates the design that we want. Here's the kastir. And then finally, there's the Sanaya, which cuts alwah al-kuntar. Then here's the final product of a door. Here are some general carving tools. We have carving knives, fishtail gouges, V-parting tools, straight gouges, spoon gouges, carver's mallet, coping saw, chisel, and vinner. Now we're going to look at some samples that we saw during our visits to the workshop. I'll sum up the comparisons between each of the wood that were found. Most commonly used wood types are zen and muski. Zen is mostly used for doors, whereas muski is used in windows. Zen and aro are more aesthetically appealing than muski, and both are more commonly used in doors. Zen is much stronger than muski, and its fibers are more compact, while muski has so many knots and its fibers are less compact, which makes it look bad. Muski has a light color, whereas zen and aro have darker colors. It also has more visible fibers. Then we have aro, whose fibers are much closer, and zen's fibers are most compact and are better looking. Lastly, zen is the smoothest of all of them. Muski has a good workability, and it is much easier to carve and shape. However, carvings and decorations of muski wood do not look as smooth and perfect because of its fibers and knots. As you can see, even though it might be easier to deal with pine wood, the final product isn't always fine because of the fibers. In order to avoid high cost and get a fancy looking door, many doors are made using muski wood, but then they're covered with a thin sheet of oak or zen on which carvings and decorations are made. As for paint, there's two types. You have the cellular and the acrylic. The cellular is the normal one that's most commonly used, and the acrylic is mostly used outdoors because it protects the door from certain environmental conditions as it resists the effect of sunlight and rain. Now those are some final door products in Egypt with their different designs. Those are different types we have. Now regarding quality control, we have the wood thicknesses, the verticality of frames, how the door and the frame are suited to each other. Also, a measure that Egyptians do is that when something happens to the mosque, which is bitfitil, in order to support it, we put a piece of wood called asfin, and we put it between the lisan and the na'r. Another quality control is that we have to check that the wood has bacteria removed by seeing if it has a red tint, like we have in the yolk. You can also check the amount of moisture in wood using a moisture meter. Of course, the drier the wood is, the better it is, but musk is left undry or with the moisture as is, as we said before. One of the qualities of wood is that it expands and shrinks with temperature. In winter, pine and oak, when not dry, expand, so they have to make sure that the distance between the door and the frame is enough to avoid friction. During summer, wood with moisture shrink so that different pieces of wood in the same door split. Temporary adjustment can be carried out by adding paste between the door wooden parts. There are two types of labor used in Egypt for the manufacture of wooden doors. We found skilled labor and child labor. Here are some references of the places that we went to and the engineers we talked to. Lastly, those are the local suppliers in Egypt that we found. This research was conducted by Alia Mondy, Allaa Elamrousy, Afify, Nehal Salah, Noha Eissa, and Taghreed Soliman, and it's presented to Dr. Khaled Nassar for our construction engineering course in the American University in Cairo.